Bene, possiamo cominciare? Ok, sta? Ok. Allora, what, you change the titles? Three dimension. Ok, cominciamo, riprendiamo i lavori. Buongiorno signori e signore. Inizia i lavori il professor Paul von Ward e lui parlerà del cosmo secondo le tre dimensioni. Paul von Ward è stato console e ambasciatore degli Stati Uniti, funzionario della NATO, ha partecipato è stato uno dei progettisti per la ristrutturazione delle piramidi d'Egitto e per altri monumenti dell'UNESCO. Ha scritto diversi libri e attualmente si occupa di formazione delle coscienze e traendo i suoi spunti da una sorta di archeologia di come nell'umanità la coscienza si è sviluppata. È uno studioso quindi di civiltà antiche e cerca di tradurre quelle forme di coscienza, di saggezza nella odierna situazione umana. E lui si definisce un cosmologo. È una professione di recente emergenza anche in Italia, ma acquisita negli Stati Uniti già da tempo. Bene, a voi Paul von Ward. You need the microphone. Ah, you have, okay.
Buongiorno. Thank you, Francesco, for the introduction. I will start with a little comment on being a cosmologist. Everyone knows what a cosmologist is, don't you? Yes? Many researchers, many professors, scientists, psychologists focus their work in one discipline, like physics, or biology, or chemistry, or psychology, or music. A cosmologist tries to look at the big picture. My education has been in different areas, in the social sciences, in psychology, in international relations, diplomacy and politics, in mathematics, in research and psychology and what we call consciousness studies. So, and as I said to the group a day or so ago, I have also been a priest, very much interested in religion, and also in history, the history of Western civilization. We are here in the cradle of Western civilization in Italy. So, I call myself not just cosmologist. I call myself an interdisciplinary cosmologist. Do you understand what I mean? Because with all of these different areas of study, I try to incorporate them in the field of cosmology. So, in America, I call myself the puzzle master, the crossword puzzle master of the cosmos. You know, you see in the newspapers crosswords, and this section might be in cosmology, someone who is only a physicist. Stephen Hawking, you know Stephen Hawking, the English cosmologist. He focuses only on physics, the discipline of physics. Outside physics, he says, I don't know. Maybe that's God. Maybe that's the event horizon. We have another cosmologist, Brian Swimme, in the United States, who focuses on biological evolution. We have some people who are mathematical cosmologists. We have some people today who call themselves evolutionary cosmologists in terms of human consciousness. I do not want to criticize these specialists in their view of the cosmos, but it appears to me that if we humans want to have a cosmology of the cosmos, we must have in that cosmology all of the different areas of study, all of the different areas of human experience. So, if I'm a conscious being, I think, I create ideas, my cosmology has to explain where those ideas come from. If I am a person who focuses on emotions, feelings, my cosmology has to include an explanation of where feelings come from. Does that make sense? So, I'm a crossword puzzle cosmologist. Good, thank you. When I asked if you knew what cosmology was, you nodded, but let's explain it. Cosmology is the study of the ways in which the cosmos functions, how it works, what are the principles that determine our reality. Now, having said that, I have to say that we don't really know. You see, cosmologists pretend to know the truth, but they do not know the truth. Like all human beings, cosmologists have different ways of knowing. So the term epistemology, I think most people know what epistemology means. It means a way of knowing. One way of knowing is through the scientific method. Another way of knowing is through inner knowing directly in one's own feelings and one's own experiences. Another way of knowing is to compare notes among ourselves. You know this, and I know this, and we together say intersubjectively, between ourselves, we know this. So you see, you have different epistemologies, and what an interdisciplinary cosmologist does is to say, what do we know about the universe from these different areas of knowing? Is that okay, Frank, and good? Yeah. So the reason I am making this presentation today, I had intended to talk about the history of Western religions and institutions and their influence on human consciousness. But I thought, after listening to the presentations by my colleagues, that it might be interesting for us to see how they all fit together. How do they give us a larger picture of the cosmos? Francesco started on the first or second day, some of you heard that. He talked about a precognitive dream that Freud had, which seemed to indicate pre-knowledge of the cancer that ultimately killed Freud. He talked about some other precognitive dreams. So if we have dreams that we call precognitive, our cosmology should explain our understanding of how those happen. We had presentations on the chakras. In other words, the Kundalini system of thinking about the chi, the prana, the energy that goes through our system, and how we use our acupuncture in those energy meridians to help control pain, to help heal us in various ways. This is another area of information from this conference. We had another presentation talking about the ingestion of ayahuasca, which results in visions, a mental state, and also an emotional state. We've had much discussion of music therapy. We had one of our colleagues talk about actually measuring the physical body's reaction with EEG. You remember those wavelengths where we talked about theta states, beta states, alpha states, very rapid gamma rays. So this is another part of our knowing about ourselves. The discussion of healing compassion. That is, in the United States now we call this distant healing, where a person focuses one's consciousness, one's intention on a person someplace else, or it could be nearby, and you facilitate the healing of that person. You help that person heal himself or herself through your conscious intentions. We have had discussion of autopoiesis, the idea of a self-generating being. We had another discussion of creativity. Where did creativity come from? And one of our colleagues said, it comes from when we stood up and changed the way we thought about the world and so on. We've had a great deal of discussion about psychosomatics, the mind-body connection. So, what I want to do in a few minutes is to say we have studied these various points of view, and we have looked in depth at this set of research topics. How do they all fit together in a human life? Now, I would like to, since we're here in Italy, to say that my ideal, my model cosmologist, the person in whom I've placed a great deal of trust and faith in his development of the idea of cosmology, is a priest who lived more than 400 years ago, whose name was Giorgio de Bruno. How many know Giorgio de Bruno? Many people in Italy, you know. He was born near Napoli, and he was trained as a priest in the church in the 16th century. And he, along with Galileo, Copernicus, other people of the Renaissance era, he developed a cosmology. Now, he was a priest in the church and trained as a religious person, but he developed a cosmology of the natural universe, that is, the nature of the universe in which we live. And his idea of the universe was that it was one singular creation, one organism, but one organism of many dimensions. He called it multi-dimensions in unity. And that's the cosmology that I'm going to try to talk about today. Now, Bruno, when he published his cosmology, the church did not like it because it was a natural cosmology where there were principles at work in the universe that humans could understand, they could teach other humans about, and we could do experimentation. This was his concept of the universe. And how many of you remember what happened to him? Do you remember what happened to Bruno? 405 years ago, he was burned at the stake because he wrote of an interdisciplinary natural cosmology. Now, I hope that after I present my cosmology to you, that I will not be taken out into the park and burned at the stake. Although I might, because Il Papa is coming next week. I don't think so. Oh, he's already got the match. Okay. So a cosmology then for the modern world has to encompass mind, body, and emotions. You remember the list of all the presentations so far? We have talked about the mind, the body, the interconnection, and the emotions. We've talked about visions and compassionate healing, intuition, dreams. We've talked about healing our body through various psychosomatic exercises. We've talked about scientific research, looking at our brain functions and our nervous systems and how they work. We've talked about sound, the use of music and sound. We've talked about joy and anger and all the emotions, love, hate, that we have. So what I do is I like to call this cosmology a three-dimensioned cosmology, because it must deal with our mind, our body, and our emotions. Now, keep in mind, keep your awareness of mind, body, emotions, and there is much research going on in the world in each of these three areas. I mentioned distant healing. There are many studies now, very good scientific studies, very well-controlled studies that prove in a scientific way that humans can focus their energies on another human and help in the healing of that person. We have many studies at this point. We can talk about some of those if we have time for questions. There are also many studies that show that not only can we have an effect on the bodies and the emotions of other people, we can also affect matter, physical matter. For more than 20 years now at Princeton University in the United States, we have had a team of people doing research to demonstrate that the mind can affect computers, the mind can affect physical apparatus. One of the research projects was to determine whether or not human intentions could cause, you know what the bell curve is? This is, where things happen randomly and a certain number is in the middle and you get the curve skewed this way. For many, many years, through thousands of people, this research at Princeton demonstrated that using the balls that we use that fall into a random pile to arrive at this circle could be changed. If enough people focus their energy, this curve can be shifted more to one side or the other. It's very well documented, very well researched. This same group determined that if we use computers with something that we call the random events generator, the random event generator in a computer system works on this kind of curve. Things are going to be, over time, in a very predictable pattern. But if enough people focus their energy on that computer, once again, it's no longer symmetrical. It's abnormal. You have anomalous data coming from the computer. This is very well documented, very well demonstrated, and in fact, some very interesting results have been shown, because now this team has, around the world, 15 or 20 sites monitoring human events. So we have found that the computer goes abnormal at the time of or just prior to significant events, like the death of Princess Diana in the UK, like just prior to the 9/11 terrorist attack in New York, like before the tsunami in December. Now, we don't understand how this happens. We don't know exactly what's going on, but we do know that the human mind is somehow able to pick up on and influence a random events generator when it comes to cycles of emotion. There's much work done with dowsing rods. I have my dowsing rods with me, so if anybody wants to play with them at the break, we can douse something. But the idea of dowsing is that there are energies, subtle energies, that we humans are able to tap into. We can feel them, either with our hands or with an apparatus like a dowsing rod. Acupuncture, I think we all know about acupuncture, the ability to take needles and disrupt or make connections in energetic circuits in our bodies to have an effect is there. So these are what we call the subtle energies that work at the level of emotion, the level of feeling. It's not ideas, it's not thoughts or images, it is energy flowing through our body and through the system and through the universe. We call it subtle energies. There are many words for that: chi, prana, kundalini, 0 point energy.